The universe was already being explored by other alien races before mankind arrived. While his wife Alia watches his daughter Naveen play on the beach on the planet Samaras, Mills explains he has accepted a 2-year exploration job. Usually he does short runs, but this time he wants the extra money to pay for Naveen's treatment. After teaching Naveen how to whistle with her hands, Mills finally discusses his trip with her. It is some time later that Mills is the pilot of a cryogenic sleep ship, which encounters unexpected meteorite activity and gets hit multiple times by chunks of meteorite. In the midst of the ship's disintegration, Mills sends an emergency signal from the cockpit and guides it to land on the nearest planet. As the ship crashes into 2 pieces, Mills thinks of his daughter before he falls unconscious as he watches the inevitable crash. As Mills wakes up, the computer tells him they're in an unknown location. He realizes he has a piece of metal stuck on his stomach, so he painfully removes it and cauterizes it. To determine whether the cryo chamber has been compromised, he puts on his astronaut suit and investigates the ship. After grabbing a laser gun just in case, Mills leaves the ship and walks into a pool of water where a mysterious creature swims around him. Mills is filled with despair upon discovering the lifeless bodies of his crew, none of whom managed to survive. Having surveyed the damaged ship and ascertained that the escape pod was situated on the other half which had landed elsewhere, Mills sends an emergency signal conveying his current location on uncharted terrain. Overwhelmed by a sense of helplessness and entrapment, Mills contemplates putting an end to it all before recollections of Naveen prevent him from doing so. In order to hear her voice once more, Mills collects all of the tapes containing messages left for him by Naveen. The computer detects a working capsule nearby. Mills rushes to investigate and finds Koa still alive. He takes her out immediately. On their way back to the ship, Mills notices a huge paw print on the ground, revealing this planet is Earth 65 million years ago, meaning Mills is surrounded by dinosaurs. While on board the ship, Mills dreams of Naveen, who demands to know where he is. In order to save the girl, Mills makes an attempt to escape the ship the next morning. He uses the ship's computer to locate the other half, but the scan cannot locate it. After exploring the area, Mills finds huge bones indicating how dangerous the local predators are. A hot geyser blast also accidentally hits him, which he hadn't seen before. Once he recovers, he sees something shining in the distance and realizes the other ship half is on a far mountain. A quick scan confirms it, and while Mills is thinking about what path to take, a small dinosaur suddenly attacks him. The creature fights Mills for some time, but Mills finally pushes it down and hits it with his gun until he kills it. As Mills investigates the noises coming from the woods, he finds Koa has left. Upon spotting him, the girl takes off running, and Mills follows suit. However, this results in both of them tumbling off a ledge where they come across a massive deceased dinosaur. Their discovery is short-lived once Mills notices a larger creature approaching, and he quickly seizes Koa before heading back to their vessel. After tending to her injuries caused by their fall, Mills tries to clarify the situation, but communication proves difficult as they speak different languages, and their translator fails. He resorts to using red powder and tablet drawings depicting mountains with pods to illustrate that escaping there is crucial. Koa accompanies Mills and depicts her ideal family to keep herself composed. To put Koa at ease, Mills fibs and tells her that her family is also in the mountains. Subsequently, Mills sends out another signal requesting help, claiming that he has found a survivor. Meanwhile, Koa discovers Naveen's recordings and watches them all. The tapes reveal that during their initial year of travel, Naveen's condition deteriorated significantly and she had to be taken to a hospital. At first, Naveen's messages were positive and enthusiastic about her father. However, as time passed, she grew frustrated with him for not being present when she needed him the most. Once Mills has enough supplies in his bag, he and Koa begin walking through the wilderness, keeping quiet so as not to attract predators. During the journey, Mills helps Koa every time she falls or needs anything. One afternoon, Koa notices something glowing red in the sky, but she doesn't comment. After a while of walking, Koa decides to switch things up and picks some berries to throw at Mills. However, Mills isn't amused and uses his scan to show that the berries are harmful. Later on, Mills has an unpleasant encounter with a large bug which leaves him covered in a sticky substance. Despite his attempts to rid himself of it using a nearby tree, he ends up falling over with bark sticking to his hand, much to Koa's amusement. As Mills tries to tease her back, a small tree falls in front of them and interrupts their little game. There are strange sounds coming from behind the ledge, and the duo finds a small dinosaur stuck in the sticky substance. Koa runs to help it out, which Mills believes is too dangerous. Since she won't listen, Mills ends up helping her finish faster since she won't listen. The small animal scurries off upon its release, but is promptly assaulted by a pack of hunters who swiftly take its life. Koa is led to a hiding place by Mills to shield her from the gruesome scene, although she can still sense what's happening, and weeps. Once the predators have departed, they proceed on their excursion, halting at a waterfall to cleanse themselves and refill their canteen. Although Mills is anxious about his abdominal injury, after discovering some beautiful flowers, Koa convinces Mills to let her tuck one into his hair. However, just moments later, the scanner that Mills is using loses track of the mountain's location. To remedy this problem, he decides to climb a nearby tree for a better vantage point and scan the area anew. Unfortunately, while up in the tree, Mills encounters an unwelcome visitor. A bug lands on his hand, which causes him to shake it off and accidentally break a branch in the process. As a result of his fall from above, he ends up dislocating his arm. To try and fix it themselves before any more danger rises, Koa helps push it against a tree trunk for support. And now that he's feeling better, he grabs the gun and fires at the creature. Mills also tells Koa to run, and once she's far enough, he activates a few small bombs that kill half of the dinosaurs. As survivors continue to jump on Mills, he shoots each one by one. Meanwhile, a bunch of flying dinosaurs land near Koa, so she crawls away to hide. Unfortunately, the beasts from before find her, and when they are about to jump on her, Mills shows up and kills them all. However, one hiding suddenly jumps on Koa from behind and drags her away with its tail. Mills goes after them quickly and shoots at the creature to frighten it off. Koa is now too afraid of him to continue or even be near him, so Mills sits down and gives her some space. When it starts to get dark, Mills decides to whistle like he used to do for Naveen to try and calm Koa down. As a result, corresponds with her family's whistle, finally allowing them to continue. They walk a lot to reach a cave, where they will spend the night. In order to warn them of potential danger, Mills installs some sensors and uses his scanner to look up in the sky, which finally reveals that the meteorite is nearby. It's a small one though, so he doesn't worry. Koa suddenly distracts him by revealing she's brought one of Naveen's tapes with her, and while Mills initially gets angry, he plays the tape because Naveen brings both of them comfort. Although Mills is trying to sleep, he is unable to avoid thinking about the day Alia called him to let him know Naveen had died, which makes him cry. The sensors alarm Mills later on in the night. A bug enters Koa's mouth when he checks on her, and he immediately uses a tool to kill it, causing Koa to cough up all the remains. Then the sensors begin going crazy and a giant dinosaur appears outside the cave at that moment. After shooting the dinosaur a few times, Mills and Koa exit the cave through a small opening. Unaware that a smaller dinosaur is following them, the duo immediately searches for a way out of the cave. The duo is disappointed to find a dead end after traversing narrow pathways for a long time. Mills attempts to expand the small space between two rocks by digging, but his progress is minimal, and he eventually abandons the effort. And with her that their loved ones are no longer alive, Koa fails to comprehend him. Realizing that he lacks adequate tools, Mills suddenly comes up with an idea. He utilizes some bombs to create enough space for a child-sized individual in the hole, and hands over the remainder of the explosives to Koa for safety purposes while she explores further. After Koa assesses the space on the other side, Mills attempts to follow her through the small opening. However, it unexpectedly caves in, and Mills becomes separated from Koa, causing him to express his frustration with a desperate yell. In that moment, he hears the approaching dinosaur and reacts by grabbing his gun and returning to the previous cave where he uses a scanner for location detection. When attacked from behind, Mills anticipates its movements and fires back. Unfortunately, despite his efforts, the dinosaur strikes him, causing him to drop his weapon. When the beast bites Mills' arm, Mills fights it off until he reaches his scanner and activates a screeching sound that hurts the dinosaur's ears. While the creature is distracted, Mills retrieves his gun and kills it. Meanwhile, Koa makes it outside. A huge bone is found in the forest that she can use as a weapon, so she wraps it up with poisonous berries and a big leaf, and then put it away. Shortly after exiting the cave, Mills notices a massive meteorite approaching. Upon scanning it with his device, he realizes that the previous one he saw was merely a fragment of a larger celestial body heading towards Earth, which will cause widespread destruction in just hours. In search of Koa, he hears her cries for help as she is threatened by a dinosaur. Although attempting to reach her quickly, Mills loses his footing and falls into quicksand. Despite calling out to Koa for assistance, he slowly sinks until rendering him unable to speak anymore. Mills' call encourages Koa to gather her courage and wait for the dinosaur to enter the tree trunk, so she can throw the bombs at it before running. With the beast dead, Koa can safely reach the quicksand and bend over a tree to assist Mills in getting out. Upon reuniting, Mills explains the meteorite to Koa as they run the last few miles. In the evening, the two finally reach the base of the mountain. Koa climbs up using a rope tied by Mills, who then secures it cleverly around natural fixtures to support his weight as he ascends. They soon locate the missing half of the ship, and Mills quickly switches on the computer to verify that a rescue team is en route. Meanwhile, Koa seeks out her family only to discover their cryotanks in ruins, leaving her understandably angry with Mills for deceiving her. In response, Mills reveals a picture of Naveen, and shares how he lost his own daughter while working, thus explaining why he can't allow anyone else to suffer such loss under his watch. In an effort to apologize, Koa sobs as he hugs Mills. Then, small pieces of meteorite begin to fall, so Mills and Koa rush into the emergency pod as they run. The pod falls down the mountain after being hit by a piece of meteorite when Mills is about to press the launch button. As soon as Koa wakes up, he presses the launch button, but the computer says it cannot launch at this point. As Mills begins to wake up too, a huge dinosaur arrives and begins attacking the pod. Since the gun fell on the ground, Mills has to risk leaving the pod to retrieve it, only to discover it doesn't work. Mills tries to hide behind a piece of the ship while a second dinosaur joins the attack. Koa grabs the Naveen tape, plays it on the scanner, and creates a hologram of Naveen outside the ship as the dinosaurs surround him. Mills cries because he thinks he's getting to see his daughter one last time before his death, but it turns out the dinosaurs are tricked and attack the hologram first. Using this distraction, Mills comes out and kills the first creature, while the other pushes the ship trying to get to Koa. Mills immediately comes after it too, and after a few well-landed shots, this dinosaur also dies. The pod now has the right positioning for launch due to the creature's push. As Mills heads back, the creature he had previously shot in the cave reappears and gives chase. Acting quickly, Mills races towards the geysers and tricks the dinosaur into stepping into a scorching stream of water aimed at its face. However, this tactic does not inflict significant harm to the beast. Fortunately, Koa arrives just in time with a bone she had sharpened beforehand and thrusts it into the dinosaur's eye. As a result, it begins thrashing around wildly before unwittingly stumbling onto another geyser that spews boiling water towards its stomach, leading to its eventual demise by burns. Later on, Mills and Koa make their way back to the pod just before a meteorite strikes Earth, leading to the extinction of dinosaurs. Once they reach the atmosphere, the autopilot directs them towards their rendezvous point with a rescue vessel. As they head home, Mills shuts his eyes and imagines being reunited with Naveen while Koa holds his hand for support. Be sure to subscribe and enable notifications for future videos of this kind. Thank you for watching.